The veil between heaven and earth is thinner than you realize. The spiritual realm has always been near, watching, waiting, and preparing for this very moment. The 4 angels have now arrived, carrying messages meant only for God's chosen ones. You were not placed in this time by accident, nor was your existence a coincidence. You were set apart long before you took your first breath. There is a divine purpose woven into your being, one that cannot be ignored. You have always felt different. You have sensed that you do not belong to the patterns of this world, that something within you does not align with what society considers normal. This feeling is not a burden, it is a sign. It is confirmation that you have been called for something greater. The isolation, the restlessness, the deep longing for truth, these were never random. They were heaven's way of awakening you to your true identity. Now, the time of waiting is over. The moment of revelation has come. The 4 angels have arrived, and their words will open your eyes to what has been hidden. The question is, will you listen? Will you embrace who you were always meant to be? If you had to choose, would you give up wealth and luxury to live in peace as one of God's chosen ones, fully devoted to His purpose? Or would you sacrifice your calling to pursue a life of earthly riches? Comment below with your choice and why. You have walked a path filled with trials, misunderstood, rejected, and isolated. You have asked why your journey has been so difficult, why suffering seems to follow you, why those around you fail to understand the depths of your soul. But this has never been a punishment, it has been preparation. God's chosen ones do not live ordinary lives. The weight you have carried was never meant to break you, but to refine you, to strip away all that is not aligned with your divine purpose. The world has tried to convince you that you are alone, that your struggles are meaningless, but heaven has always been watching. The pain you have endured was never wasted, it was shaping you into the vessel God needs for this time. Those who are called must be tested, for they are entrusted with great responsibility. The rejection you faced was not a sign of failure, it was confirmation that you were never meant to belong to this world. Now the 4 angels have come, bringing revelations that will awaken your spirit. These messages are not for the faint-hearted. They are for those who have endured the fire and are ready to step into the fullness of who they were always meant to be. The world has lied to you. Since the day you were born, it has fed you illusions, making you believe in things that were never meant for you. It taught you to measure success by wealth, status, and recognition. It conditioned you to chase validation, to seek approval from those who do not see, to believe that your worth is determined by the opinions of others. But none of this was ever meant for you. As one of God's chosen ones, you were not created to be bound by these falsehoods. The reason you feel restless, the reason you have never truly fit in, is because your spirit was never meant to conform to the systems of this world. You have been trapped in a cycle designed to keep you blind. The world taught you that success is found in power, but power without purpose is a prison. It told you that happiness is found in pleasure, but pleasure without meaning only leaves you empty. It convinced you that your identity should be shaped by the approval of others, but those who cannot see the truth will never validate what is divine. The systems of this world are not for you. They were designed to distract, to control, to keep God's chosen ones asleep. But now, your awakening has begun. Look into your life with clear eyes, strip away the illusions. What remains? What have you been holding on to that was never truly yours? The voices of this world have filled your mind with noise, convincing you to accept their version of truth. But deep within, you have always known something was wrong. You have always sensed that there was more, that the way things operate is not how they were meant to be. Now, you must ask yourself, what have I accepted as truth that was never truth? What beliefs have kept me bound? What habits have kept me blind? You were not created to bow to a broken system. You were made to see, to perceive beyond the veil, to discern what others cannot. But to fully embrace this sight, you must be willing to let go. Let go of the illusions, the false comforts, the temporary pleasures that drain your soul. Let go of the relationships, the mindsets, the attachments that keep you tied to a reality that was never meant to be yours. The enemy wants to keep you entangled, to make you believe that you need these things to survive. But heaven is waiting for your answer. Will you remain in the deceptions of this world, or will you embrace the truth? The choice is yours. The first revelation has been given, now you must act. You have felt it deep within, the discomfort, the restlessness, the undeniable sense that something in this world does not align with your spirit. It is not confusion. It is not a mistake. It is your awakening. That feeling of never fully belonging, of sensing that there is something more, is heaven's way of calling you out of deception and into truth. You were never meant to be trapped by the systems of this world. You were not created to conform, to follow blindly, or to live under the weight of man-made illusions. You were chosen to see. The world has built systems designed to keep God's chosen ones asleep. It tells you what to believe, what to desire, what to pursue, but all of it is a carefully constructed lie. The comfort it offers is false. The security it promises is temporary. It wants you to stay distracted, to keep chasing things that were never meant to fulfill you. But the moment you begin to question, the moment you begin to see through the deception, everything starts to change. The world does not want you to wake up, because once you do, you become unstoppable. You must break free from the chains that have kept you bound. What mindsets have you accepted that were never truly yours? What habits have kept you in a cycle of distraction? What relationships have pulled you further from your calling? Everything that is not aligned with God's purpose for your life must be released. There is no room for half measures. You cannot wake up and still hold on to what was keeping you asleep. You cannot see the truth and still live by the lies of this world. To step fully into your calling, you must strip away every attachment that is keeping you bound. This will not be easy. The world will try to pull you back. It will tell you that you are overthinking, that you are being too extreme, that you are walking away from what is normal. But do not forget, you were never meant to be normal. You were never meant to fit in. The chosen ones are called to stand apart, to live by truth, not by convenience. The discomfort you feel is not a burden. It is a sign that you are awakening. Now, you must decide, will you stay bound by the expectations of this world, or will you step into the freedom you were always meant to have? Heaven is watching. The time to choose is now. You have never truly belonged to this world, and deep down, you have always known it. The rejection, the misunderstandings, the sense of isolation, none of it was random. The world does not recognize you because you were never meant to be part of it. The moment you were chosen, you were marked. Your spirit carries something different, something that does not align with the systems of men, and because of this, the world resists you. It tries to silence you, to push you into conformity, to make you question yourself. But this rejection is not a curse, it is confirmation. The chosen ones have always been set apart. From the beginning, those who carried divine purpose walked paths of loneliness. The prophets, the disciples, even Christ himself, none were embraced by the world. They were mocked, persecuted, and cast aside because the world could not understand them. You are no different. The isolation you have faced was not a punishment but a purification. It has stripped away everything that was not meant to go with you into your divine calling. It has removed the need for human approval, forcing you to rely only on the approval of God. When the world mocks you, it is not because you are wrong, it is because your light exposes the darkness. They do not reject you, they reject what you stand for. The enemy wants you to believe that you are the problem, that you are unworthy, that you are alone. But the truth is, you are feared. They fear your wisdom, they fear your clarity, they fear the way you walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. They fear that you see through their deception, that you cannot be controlled, that you carry something far greater than they can comprehend. But you must remember this. You were not sent here to be liked. You were sent here to disrupt, to break cycles, to awaken those who are ready. Your difference is not a weakness, it is your strength. It is the very thing that proves who you are. So let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them stare in confusion. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is that you embrace who you are without fear, without apology, without hesitation. You were chosen to stand apart. Now, it is time to do so with boldness. You have spent too much time questioning yourself, wondering why you are different, why people misunderstand you, why you do not fit in. But the time for questioning is over. The world's rejection is not a reflection of your weakness, it is proof of your calling. The reason they do not accept you is because your presence unsettles them. The world cannot understand what it was never meant to contain. The light within you, the wisdom you carry, the ability to see beyond the surface, these things make you a threat to the systems of deception that govern this world. The enemy does not fear those who are blind, it fears those who can see. You have been given sight, discernment, and revelation that others do not have. You can see through falsehoods. You can recognize the illusions that keep people bound. You perceive the unseen battles that rage beyond what the natural eye can detect. This is why you have faced so much opposition. The forces that control this world know that you cannot be deceived like the rest. They know that you cannot be manipulated, that you will not follow blindly, that you carry something greater than they can destroy. But you must understand this. You do not need to apologize for who you are. You do not need to soften yourself to make others comfortable. You were not created to fit in, you were created to stand apart. The light within you is meant to shine, not be hidden. The wisdom within you is meant to be spoken, not silenced. The power within you is meant to disrupt, not conform. The time for shrinking back, for doubting yourself, for questioning whether you are enough is over. You are exactly who God created you to be. Every trial, every rejection, every lonely season was shaping you for this moment. You are not weak. You are not mistaken. You are not lost. You are chosen. The world may not recognize you, but heaven does. The enemy may fear you, but God has already secured your victory. You do not need the approval of men when you have been called by God. So stop explaining yourself. Stop looking for validation where it was never meant to be found. Stop trying to make yourself smaller to fit into places you were never meant to belong. Let them misunderstand you. Let them reject you. Let them fear you. None of it changes the truth. You were set apart from the beginning. You were chosen before the foundations of the earth. Now, it is time to embrace it without apology, without hesitation, and without fear. You have already heard the call. The voice within you has spoken. The signs have been given, and yet you hesitate. You wonder if you are truly ready, if you have what it takes, if this is truly your time. But understand this: delay is the enemy's greatest weapon against you. Every second you wait, fear takes root. Every moment of hesitation, doubt gains power. The longer you remain stagnant, the more difficult it becomes to step forward. The enemy does not need to destroy you to stop you, only needs to keep you in a state of waiting. You have been asking for more signs, for more clarity, for more confirmation before you move. But what if I told you that the clarity you seek will not come before you take the first step, but after? Faith is not about knowing exactly how everything will unfold. Faith is stepping out before you see the full picture. If you are waiting for a moment when all fear is gone and everything feels perfectly aligned, you will wait forever. That moment will never come. But what will come is the provision, the resources, and the strength you need as you move. Look at the great figures of faith throughout history. Moses doubted his ability. Gideon asked for sign after sign. Jeremiah thought he was too young. None of them felt fully prepared, yet they obeyed. And in their obedience, miracles followed. The Red Sea did not part before Moses lifted his staff, it parted as he obeyed. The walls of Jericho did not fall before Israel marched, they fell as they marched. God's provision is not waiting on your certainty, it is waiting on your obedience. How many moments have you let slip away because of hesitation? How many times have you felt heaven pushing you in a certain direction, yet you held back because fear whispered, "Not yet"? You have already seen what happens when you delay. Opportunities pass, doors close, and the longer you wait, the more you convince yourself that maybe you were wrong, maybe you imagined it all, maybe you are not really chosen. But deep down, you know the truth. You are chosen. You have always known. The enemy wants to keep you in a cycle of waiting, doubting, overanalyzing. But the time for waiting is over. There is an urgency in this season. Heaven is moving, and if you do not move with it, you will be left behind. The anointing on your life is not just for you, it is for those who need what you carry. Every moment of hesitation is not just delaying your own growth, It is delaying the transformation of those who are connected to your obedience. There are people who need your voice. There are lives that will only shift when you step into your assignment. Do not let another moment slip by. Stop waiting for everything to feel perfect. Stop asking for another sign when the signs have already been given. Stop praying for confirmation when you already know what you need to do. The moment you move, heaven moves with you. The moment you obey, doors open. The moment you act, miracles begin to unfold. God has already spoken. Now, it is your turn to answer. You were not given sight just to remain silent. You were not given wisdom just to keep it hidden. The truth that has been revealed to you, the knowledge that has stirred in your spirit, was not placed within you for your own benefit alone. You were chosen to speak, to declare, to bring light into the darkness. The enemy has tried to convince you that your voice does not matter, that your words will not be heard, that it is safer to stay quiet. But do you not see? The very reason the enemy wants to silence you is because your voice carries power. There are forces in this world that thrive on deception, that operate in the shadows, that work tirelessly to keep people blind. They want you silent because they fear what will happen when you speak. They fear that your words will awaken those who are still trapped in darkness. They fear that your voice will break chains, that it will open eyes, that it will expose the systems of control that keep people bound. That is why they have tried to intimidate you. That is why they have tried to make you believe that speaking out will come at too great a cost. But what is the cost of silence? If you do not speak, who will? If you do not rise, who will take your place? The truth is not meant to be hidden. It is not meant to be watered down or spoken in whispers. The truth is a fire, and it is meant to burn away deception. You were chosen to carry that fire. You were chosen to speak boldly, to proclaim what others are afraid to say, to bring heaven's truth into a world drowning in lies. This world is full of falsehoods. People are walking through life believing in illusions. They accept lies as truth. They embrace systems that were never meant to serve them. They are trapped in cycles of deception, unable to see the chains around them. And yet you see, you have been given sight. You understand the spiritual war that is raging beyond what the eyes can perceive. You recognize the deceptions that so many have fallen for. You see the ways in which the enemy has manipulated, distorted, and misled. And if you see, then you are responsible. To know the truth and remain silent is to allow deception to continue. To see what is happening and refuse to speak is to stand on the side of falsehood. You cannot be passive. You cannot let fear hold your tongue. The prophets spoke even when they were rejected. The disciples preached even when they were persecuted. Christ himself declared the truth even when it led him to the cross. You were never promised comfort. You were never promised ease. You were called to be a witness, and witnesses testify. Your voice was anointed before you were born. Heaven has placed a message inside you that must be released. You do not need the approval of men to speak. You do not need validation from the world to proclaim what you know is true. The world does not have to accept it. The world does not have to listen, but you must speak anyway. You must declare the truth, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is costly, even when it means standing alone. Because the truth cannot remain hidden. The truth must be spoken. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you extreme. Let them reject you. It does not matter. The world has never welcomed the voices of those who carry divine revelation. The world has always tried to silence those who bring truth. But the voices of God's chosen ones cannot be stopped. Their words carry the weight of heaven. Their declarations shift the atmosphere. Their obedience breaks chains. So now, I ask you, will you be silent, or will you roar? Will you let the fear of rejection keep you from speaking, or will you declare truth with boldness? Will you allow the enemy to convince you that your words do not matter, or will you rise and take your place? The choice is before you. Heaven has placed fire in your mouth now, you must let it burn. Every moment you hesitate, the enemy takes ground that was meant for you. Every second you wait, doubt takes root, and the opportunity that was placed before you begins to slip away. You have been given a divine calling, a mission that was assigned to you before the foundation of the earth. But the enemy's greatest weapon is not destruction, it is delay. It does not need to break you if it can keep you waiting. It does not need to silence you if it can convince you that it is not yet time to speak. The enemy whispers lies, making you believe that you need to be more prepared, that you need more confirmation, that you need to wait for the perfect moment, but that moment will never come. No one who is called ever feels fully ready. No one who is chosen walks into their destiny with absolute confidence. Faith is not about certainty, it is about movement. Abraham left his homeland without knowing where he was going. Moses stepped before Pharaoh, trembling with doubt. Peter walked on water, not because he was fearless, but because he was willing to trust even when he did not understand. If they had waited until they felt fully prepared, they would have never acted. And neither will you. Think about all the times you have felt heaven pushing you forward. Think about the moments when you knew, without a doubt, that God was calling you to act. Yet, you hesitated. You allowed fear to creep in. You convinced yourself that you needed more time. How many doors have remained closed because you did not step forward when you were supposed to? How many blessings have been delayed because you waited instead of walking in obedience? The truth is, delay is disobedience. You cannot expect to step into the fullness of your calling while remaining in a state of hesitation. The opportunities that God places before you are not open indefinitely. Some doors will not remain open forever. Some assignments are time-sensitive. If you do not move when God tells you to move, the moment may pass, and what was meant for you may be given to someone else. Heaven is advancing, and you must advance with it. The enemy uses fear to keep you in place. It makes you believe that stepping out will cost you too much. It tells you that failure is inevitable, that you are not strong enough, that you will not be supported. But what it does not tell you is the cost of inaction. What will it cost you to stay where you are? What will happen if you continue to wait, to overanalyze, to second-guess what you already know in your spirit? You have been asking for confirmation, but the truth is, you do not need more signs. The signs have already been given, the words have already been spoken, the doors have already been opened. What more are you waiting for? If you are waiting for absolute certainty, you will wait forever. God does not give us the full picture because faith requires trust. If you could see every detail, every step, every provision before it happened, it would not be faith, it would be certainty. And certainty requires no trust at all. Look at the pattern of your life. Every time you stepped forward in faith, provision met you on the path. Every time you obeyed, things fell into place in ways you could not have predicted. But those breakthroughs did not come before you acted. They came as you acted. That is how heaven operates. The Red Sea did not part before Moses lifted his staff. The walls of Jericho did not fall before the Israelites marched. The miracle is always on the other side of obedience. And now, you stand at a crossroads. You can continue to hesitate, to ask for more time, to convince yourself that you are not ready. But know this, your calling will not wait for your convenience. Heaven is moving, and those who refuse to move with it will be left behind. This is not to punish you, but to awaken you. There is urgency in this season. The world is shifting. The battle is intensifying. And God is calling His chosen ones to rise. This is not about waiting until you feel confident. It is about stepping out even when you are afraid. It is about trusting that God's strength will meet you where your own strength fails. It is about believing that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. You do not need to know every step. You only need to take the first one. So what will you do? Will you continue to delay, to let fear dictate your decisions, to stand still when you were meant to move? Or will you step forward in faith, knowing that heaven backs you, that God's provision will meet you as you walk, that everything you need has already been prepared for you? You must take an honest look at your life. You can no longer afford to hold on to things that no longer serve you, to cling to mindsets that keep you bound, or to entertain distractions that pull you away from your divine calling. The time has come to make a decision. You cannot move forward while still carrying what was meant to be left behind. You have been called to something greater, but walking in that calling requires sacrifice. It requires separation. It requires a willingness to surrender everything that is keeping you tied to the patterns of this world. What relationships, habits, or thoughts have you allowed to remain in your life, knowing they are not aligned with your purpose? What voices have you listened to that have convinced you to stay small, to conform, to doubt what you already know in your spirit? You cannot deceive yourself any longer. You cannot tell yourself that you can follow God's plan while still holding on to things that pull you away from it. There is no more room for hesitation. There is no more room for compromise. If it does not serve your higher calling, it must go. And as you step into your identity as one of God's chosen ones, you must embrace it fully. Stop looking for validation from those who will never understand you. Stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to recognize your calling. The world will never accept you, and it was never meant to. You have spent too much time trying to fit into places that were never meant for you. You were set apart. You were chosen. And now, you must own that identity without apology. This is not the time for second guessing. This is not the time for wondering if you are truly called. You are. The reason you feel this stirring in your spirit, the reason these words resonate so deeply, is because they are meant for you. The reason you cannot ignore this message is because it was sent to you. Heaven does not waste words. You would not be here if you were not meant to hear this. You would not feel this urgency if it was not for you. The confirmation you have been waiting for has already come. Now, it is time to act. No more waiting. No more questioning. No more doubting. You already know what you need to do. You already know the steps you have been avoiding. You already know what you have been called to release and what you have been called to step into. The only thing left is for you to obey. The moment you take action, heaven moves. The moment you obey, things begin to shift. The doors you have been waiting for will not open before you move, they will open as you move. And finally, you must speak. You cannot remain silent when you were meant to be a voice. You cannot keep what you know to yourself when you were given truth to declare. The world is drowning in deception, and God's chosen ones were sent to cut through the lies. If you do not speak, who will? If you do not rise, who will take your place? You have come to the final moment of decision. You can either ignore everything you have heard, dismiss the urgency in your spirit, and continue as you have been. Or you can step into the fullness of who you were called to be. But understand this, there is a cost to ignoring the call. To reject it is to reject your own destiny. Heaven has placed the decision before you. What will you do?